Hey guys, I'm gonna show you how I made this file processor. It's let me show you. So at the end you'll have like an executable, and this is made in Python. So you would only have to share this file. It's all bundled together. If you want someone else to use it, this is what it looks like. And what you can do here, I have a sample file here, and you can drag this over to the window, and it'll do some processing in the background. You can also browse for the file here, and then you can save it as a CSV file. And I'll show you, like for example, I have one that I made right here, like process file. Here I'll put two. Then it says right here, file saved successfully. Let's go into that one here. I'll show you file process file 2. I'll bring that up and see what we did is we add in this part right here, this column right here. It says some random comments. That's what was added in. So I'll show you here the code. This is the GitHub repository. Um, sometimes YouTube doesn't let me put URLs in the description, so you might need to pause the video and just make sure you got this repository right here, because this is where you're going to get the files right here. And it's only 3 files. There's a sample file, there's for the icon for the executable, and then this is the actual programming right here. And where you would do all the let's say you don't want to go through the tutorial, you don't want to go through all the drama, you already know, you're already a programmer, you just want the meat of the program. Well, this is where you would do your manipulation. So this is a real world program that I created for my job, because some business people, they're not technical folks, so and they needed something to a program to process a file a certain way. So this is super simple, right? It just adds in the comments, but the one that I had this is I took this over into another function, did a bunch of manipulation, and brought it back in, and then that made the a list of dictionaries into an Excel file or a CSV file. And that's the other thing. This says CSV, but the one that we're gonna make, and I'll show you, is gonna be a CSV and or an Excel. I'm sorry, or an Excel file processor. So it works pretty good. So let me show you this right here. If I just copy this code right here, throw this into a Python program. So this is right here. See, drop CSV Excel file, CSV or Excel, and like I showed you here, here's the sample file. Okay, it's just some very basic. It's just sample data, just something to get started with. Okay, and then um, as you saw right here, the process file, it gave you this column right here, so it added it in so you can see that it works. Okay, and then we'll run a sample once we're getting more into the into the into the tutorial. The other thing about this tutorial is that I did like a code along kind of thing for this, but then I was like, with AI and everything, I'm just gonna point out some of the parts that I think would be very important to you, because I feel like, we're busy. It's a busy world nowadays. We're programmers. As long as we have an idea of how something is working, we can apply it to this. So I am gonna be using my repository here a lot and copying pasting. I'm not really going to do a code along. I think that if you guys wanted to code everything by hand, you could, but I don't think it's that necessary nowadays unless you really want to learn like tkinter and pandas and all that. I think there's tutorials that are out there that are really good for that. Okay, so let's get started here. So I'm going to just clear this out, and usually what I want to do is um, throw this into like a virtual environment. So let me pull up some things here. So We want to get started with the virtual environment. So what we'll do is we'll do Python m vnv dot vnv for virtual environment. Oops, vnv. There you go. Let's run this. So it's going to take like a moment for it to build these files, get this thing going, and it'll go over to the next line once it's been set up. And sometimes there's a little window right here in Visual Studios, and it just finished right now. There's a little window that sometimes pops up right here that says, do you want this to make a workspace? You're going to want to hit yes to that. Mine didn't show up this time. But you see this PowerShell right here? We're going to want to actually delete this and start a new one. So let's delete that one. We trashed it. Let's start a new one. And see, this is how you know you're in a virtual environment because you have this in front of it. You don't have to do this, but it's good practice just to keep your programs in a virtual environment so you can add in your own packages. See, like if you look at what packages are installed, there's nothing, right? But if I was in my global one, I have a bunch of global stuff in there because I did it kind of messy. But this kind of starts off on a fresh, clean kind of slate here. Okay, so let's start with this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring over this the imports here. So we got a few things here. We do have to have tkinter installed, pandas, and this one right here. So this is tkinter D and D2, which is really drag and drop. Okay, that's really what that is meaning. So we're gonna do install tkinter D and D, drag and drop. Two, we're gonna install that. And then after that, we're going to install pandas. Make sure that's in there. So pip install pandas. Okay, and then while that's installing, I'm going to show you. So I'm like, again, I'm taking all of this from the repository. Okay, so let me see if I can kind of split some screens here. Kind of set these up right here. So for this one, what I wanted to show you guys first is this part right here. This part here, and we can just copy this. It'd be good to have the comments in there. So let's copy this, bring this in right here. Okay, and this modern UI setup. So it's conventional for working with making a window and everything, making a program to use the root variable. And we have title, drag and drop. You'll see this is like the size of the window. This is a background color. And you can see there's a lot of stuff in here, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this part right here because everything that we do is going to be in between here, right? This will basically run the program until somebody closes it, and then it'll stop the program. Okay, so let's try this. Let's just try this part right here. Let's try this part here. It's doing some processing in the background. There we go. So there's the window right here. So that starts you off with the window. Okay, and this is resizable, but there is a flag that you could put in here to say that to have it not be resizable. Okay, but I didn't add that in there. But if you want to, you could just look it up and you'll find it right away. And you just add the code right here, and then it won't let you resize the window. Okay, so that's the main thing that I wanted to show you. That's how it at least gets started. Then all the good stuff goes right in here for the user interface only. The methods that we're going to use, they're going to go up here. Okay, so the first thing that I would do is see there's some variables on this side. Okay, we're going to use those. So let's bring that in. Okay, and then this is the header. This is what would be the header. Okay, let's just throw this in right here so you can see what it looks like. Okay, and then we can run this. See, there's the header right there, drag and drop file processor. If I change this text right here, like if I put like that or something, you're gonna see the difference. Watch. See right here. Okay, very simple. Okay, we're gonna just bring in the title. Okay, let's run that. See, there's the title right here. Okay, now this is what would be like the drop area, like where we're gonna drag and drop our file into. Okay, so that's what that is right there. we use a variable because later on what we're going to do is we're going to change this up a little bit. So that's why there has to be a variable there. Okay, and so on these other ones right here, there's label. Okay, and then there's pack. So let me explain a little bit on that one. So what you need to do to put an element in the windows, you have to have a label. I can go over some of this too. You want to initiate the root. There's some text to make kind of like a title of the label, font sizes, background color, this foreground color. It's not font color, it's foreground color, but this is really changes the font color. Okay, and there's a width, height, that's kind of explanatory. This right here is what's called a border. So this will give you like the border kind of size, almost like CSS, but it'll give you a border size. And this relief thing stylizes the border. Okay, and then this thing right here, once you got your variable set up, this thing right here, pack. So there is, this is like, I would say the layout system for tkinter. There's a pack and then there's also a grid system. But for this one, you're using the pack system. Okay, so let's get all of this, and I grabbed this too, and I'll explain that in a moment. Let's get all this, drop that in here. Let's comment these two out, these two lines. We're not going to use this right now, but we are going to use it later. Okay, so let's just comment those out so that we have it. Let's run this. There's the drop zone. See, there it is right there. Okay, so now it's in there. Great. Let's put in our buttons. Okay, let's put in our buttons right here. Upload button. Put it right down here. Same thing. Look, this is a TK button. So this gets the tkinter library, pulls up the button, initiates the root, gives it the button text, font size, background color, font color, well, foreground color. This active background and active foreground, that's when you push the button. When you actually push in the button, it kind of does a little of initiation right here to make it look like you're actually pushing a button. So that's what that's about. There's the release style for the border, some padding, almost like padding like in CSS. And then this command right here, so this is what's gonna, it's gonna fire off this function once it's clicked. We don't have that function right now though, so let's just comment that out just for now. Okay, and then we pack it in. Okay, so then we pack it in, and I can even show you what that looks like. There it is. See, and then there's that active background foreground. That's what that is. So the save button is a little different because what this is saying right here is it's doing some configuration, because when they click on the menu, and you'll see it, the save menu, it's going to bring up two options. It's going to bring up options for you to save as a CSV or an Excel. So that's what this does right here. Okay, and then so then you have the save button, same kind of setup, got to pack it in, and then this is a function that will be initiate when to initiate these right here to open up. Okay, the save as these options, and I'll show you what that looks like. We also, when there's no file selected or dragged, we actually disable the button so that they can't push it. So that's what that's about right there. So let's bring this over. Okay, and then we can run this. And remember, we're doing all this in the middle between the root main loop. Oh, so see this right here, how it says save as CSF? These right here are being fired off, these commands. They're being fired off. So what we're gonna do, let's just take these and let's just make some definitions right here like this. Oop, here we go. And we'll just do pass. Make another one. Excel. Pass. Okay, let's do that so that at least we can see what it looks like. See this option right here? That's what fires off. That's what this is firing off right here. Okay, and then this is what this part right here is, this area right here. Okay, so that's gonna do. So that's basically the UI setup. Okay, now let's get down to these other functions now, like the functionality of it. Okay, and we have a few things going on here. We have process input, we have uploading the file, dropping the file, saving the files, and then we have this thing that after they save the file, then we reset the program so they can do it again if they want. Okay, so we should start off with this one right here. Okay, start off with this one, put it right up here. Okay, process input file. This is going to be called in another function. So just to kind of go over this a little bit, we have a variable. Okay, this is going to hold the process data right here. We do our manipulation here. This is where you would do any transformation you want to do with the data, and then you got to bring it back in into this variable right here, this global variable. Okay, and then let's see. So what this is doing is we're gonna find out like what kind of extension this is. Is it CSV? Is it Excel? If it's none of those, then we have an invalid kind of like file format. We do any processing, okay, and if that doesn't fire off and these are good to go, then we're gonna make our save button. That means our file has been processed, and like right here, file been processed, and then we're gonna set our save button to not be disabled anymore. Okay, and then we have just some kind of error handling going on right here. Okay, but this is going to get fired off over here. Watch, I'll show you. Let's take this upload file. Okay, and let's bring that right down here. Gonna make some space right here in between these ones. Okay, so then we got to get our file path right. This will open up a window. Okay, this is gonna open up like a file window, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then if the file path is good, we got a file path, and it's gonna call that function that we just made up here. Okay, so let's see if we can run this. Browse. Okay, so I realized this isn't working because we commented this out. Let's do this right here. Browse right here. Got to uncomment this out. Okay, now this is gonna fire off. Moving here, browse here. Let's restart this again. And boom, there it is. And you see this title right up here? That's this part right here. Okay, so you can change that to be whatever you want, and then you can name your file and things like that. So this is selecting the file. Okay, then you would just hit open. Okay, let's stop this. Let's do the drop area now. Okay, let's grab this part. So again, what this top one was doing is it was allowing us to select a file path. If the file path was there, then it was gonna fire off this function. Okay, now this is kind of the drag and drop is kind of doing the same thing. There's a little bit more stuff going on because it's kind of like a drag and drop functionality. But we have a file path. We want to strip any white space. Sometimes Windows will throw in some brackets in their file path. So that's what this is taking off. It's kind of slicing it right here, the list. I'm sorry, the characters right here. And then we're making an extension. We're getting the operating system path. And then if there is a file path, and then if the file ends with a CSV or an Excel extension, then we're good to go. Then that means we're gonna process the file. Okay, and then this drop label right here, we're gonna change the color of this to a different color, and I'm gonna go over here And that's why we made this variable thing right here for the default color, is because we're changing the color basically on this side right here once the file gets processed when we drag and drop it. And then there's also a just some error handling going on right here. Okay, so let's go back to here. So that looks good, and actually we should be able to run this. Let's see here, and then we can get a file going, a sample file. Okay, so see how this is not working? Again, there's some things that we brought in that we didn't comment out right here. So now it's a good time to uncomment this. So this this DND files, this is basically drag and drop files, okay? And it kind of like it starts to configure this label that we made. And then this label, there's a drag and drop bind function, and then there's this flag right here that is initiated once somebody drags over to the area, it fires off the function that we just made. Okay, so that's what that is. So we uncommented that. Let's run this again. And then here we go. And see the background has been changed, and the file has been uploaded. So then, and then the save, you can see right here, now it's ready to go. You can save it, but we gotta configure this part right here. So that's that part. Now let's get into save CSV, and then save as Excel. Okay, so we could do the first one. They're basically the same. It's a little bit of a repeat. Okay, so we're gonna put that right here. Okay, and then we're gonna do the Excel one also. Do that one right here. See this one right here? We don't have that yet. Let's just comment those out so that we can try the program. And this right here, save as CSV. So what this does, so it's gonna take this global variable right here, and if there's nothing in there, it didn't process anything, we're going to show a warning. Other than that, what we're going to do is we're going to get the path, the file path of where the person wants to save it. That's what this file dialog is going to do. It's going to open up a window and ask for people to save at a destination. Then we're going to get that file path, and there is a function called toCSF, 2CS. I'm sorry, 2CSV. That's gonna that we call in order to make the CSV file. Okay, and then once that file is saved, then we're gonna just show an alert box, message box, saying that it's saved and that the file was saved as CSV. And it's the same thing for the Excel, the same setup that's going on here. Okay. Um, I am gonna bring in over this reset program so that I can just show you fully. I mean, there's only one function left over here. Okay, and this just resets everything. This just gets everything all clear and everything, changes that color back, and disables the same save button. Okay, so let's now we can run this thing fully. Okay, and then I'm gonna get my sample file here, throw it in here. Okay, you can save. Let's try saving as CSV. So save CSV. Okay, file saved as CSV, and there's the file right there. And you can see in the preview window right here that the comments were added, and the comments is this is added. This is an added comment, so that you can tell that that this manipulation that we did right here, this this is an added comment. That means that it was processed in there. Okay, and then the same thing with Excel. We can do it as an Excel example. So save Excel. Okay, this is perfect. That's something, this didn't work. So you might run into this part right here. You see this part here? No module named open openpyxl. So this is something that you're going to have to install. Okay, so just take that and let's install this. Pip install openpyxl. This is what's used to create the Excel file, and sometimes that does need to be installed. Sometimes it's included, I think, in some packages of Python, but for this instance, we had to do it this way. So let's run this again. Throw the sample in there. This time, this browse for the sample. Good. File processed successfully. Saves of Excel. Save Excel. File saved as Excel. Great. And let's see if I can bring this up. I don't have Excel, so see if it'll give me this preview here. There it is. There's the comment right there. Okay, so that's working great. So everything is working good. And so one thing here I just realized is that it didn't do the reset. So let's see, did we uncomment those out? Nope, that's why. So make sure we uncomment those out. Okay, and then it'll do the reset. Okay, so that's how the program is basically set up. Hopefully that kind of helps you out on how this is working. And even like the UI, and once again, there's a lot of good tkinter UI stuff out there, but nowadays with just AI, I mean, you can, if you're a programmer, you kind of can get what you need from AI generated code. But now what we're going to do is we're going to make the executable. And in order to do that, you have to install PyInstaller. Okay, so let's run this and get that going. And while that's going, I want to show you this part. So what's going to happen while this is going in the background, there's this icon right here. If you don't use this icon, it's just going to give you um, like a default icon for your executable. So I just used a icon generator online and just downloaded something very simple so that you can use this, use something or see how you can use something for the icon. And it's, you're going to see there's going to be a few folders here that it's that PyInstaller is going to put on in the system. But what we're going to do is we're going to do, so PyInstaller has been installed. Okay, so this is the what you're going to need to do. You do PyInstaller, and then the name of the your Python file right here. Okay, so mine is file processor py. And then you're gonna want to do these flags right here. You're gonna want to do one file, no console. Okay, and then you're gonna want to do the icon, and that's gonna equal favicon ICO, which is this right here. Okay, so that's that. Let's run this. Okay, so that's gonna start doing, PyInstaller is gonna start doing its thing. Okay, and it already dropped in these files right here. Okay, these folders are here. So it's doing some stuff here, processing. Your executable is going to be in here. It's not in there yet, but it's going to be in here, and we'll see in a moment. This takes probably about maybe 2 minutes to do. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so we're back. PyInstaller finished its thing. The build is complete, which is great. So then we go here to the distribution folder, and there is our executable here. We got our icon. One time I had a icon here, but it wasn't changing over here. But I had my file name as test. So like in other words, like the file name was test, right? And when I did that, it was conflicting somewhere. So anyways, you might want to, if it doesn't work for you, try naming it something else. So yeah, then we can just open this up as an executable, make sure everything works, give it some test here. Let's see here. Go back here, look at some sample file. There we go. We can file and drag it. We can save it as a CSV or an Excel, which is great. We can just browse for the file instead, which is great. So yeah, everything's working here. I'll just save the save Excel 2. There we go. File saved as Excel 2. We can take a look, see if it did it. Yep, it did the comments. So yeah, so everything's working, and yeah, that's how you do it. So like I said, at the beginning, if you just want to grab the file and work with what's in the repository, you can do that way. I believe you guys are programmers, you guys can figure it out, but I did try to explain some of the functionality of what's going on here. And this, like I said, this was a real world program that I used to solve uh, uh, a situation at my job. Okay, all right, thank you guys.